Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Pretty Privilege series. This is going to be another toxic rant. But have you ever noticed that some girls, they kind of stereotype you if you're the pretty girl, and then they will try to use conceit as a way to humble you. So, for example, they'll be like, "You're being conceited." And the only reason they're saying that is because they want you to jump through hoops to try to prove to them how humble you are. And it's like, no, sis, some women actually are conceited. So, how you like them apples? How do you feel now? How does it feel to know that there actually are women out there who are pretty and they are also conceited, and there's nothing you can do to control their emotional state? There's nothing you can do to make them humble themselves. Anytime somebody says, well, you're conceited, you think you're cuter than you are, like when they start saying stuff like that, you're average at best, you're a six at best, you're an adjustable six, they're saying that because they just don't like the level of confidence you have. They don't like the level of audacity you have. And I've noticed another thing actually, even when it comes to exoticals, people will say, well, you're not even light skinned. Well, you're not even mixed. Well, you're not even biracial. Well, you're not even white passing. And it's like, none of those things are where I get my self esteem from anyway. So even if you are cocky, if your cockiness is not based on your beauty, if your cockiness is not even based on those things, that person's insult doesn't hit like they thought it did. Also, calling someone conceited is not going to stop them from being conceited. Like just walking up to some random girl on the street or commenting on their Instagram, you're cocky. Okay, so I'm officially going to change my personality now. No, that's really just a silencing tactic. And my question for those of you who go on the internet calling people cocky and conceited and uppity, how do you prove that that person is cocky? Like, does the person say, hey, oh my God, I think I'm better than you? Like, how are you even proving that this person is conceited? Because usually, whenever I see a girl that calls another girl conceited, I will ask that girl, okay, what did she do to show that she's conceited? And they can never give an answer. Usually it'll just be a girl who's pretty and extroverted, or maybe she enjoys her pretty privilege. Have you ever noticed that? If you're the type of woman that enjoys your pretty privilege, like if you are basking in your pretty privilege, if you're enjoying compliments, if you're enjoying free drinks at a bar or something like that, suddenly you're conceited. So you're allowed to be pretty, you're allowed to be privileged, but you're not allowed to use your beauty or use your privilege. Do you see the hypocrisy? And so that's why I want to ask the question, do you even have a pretty girl mindset? Because I've noticed that sometimes a girl, she could be pretty, maybe I think a girl is pretty, or maybe she has a pretty face, or there's nothing wrong with her. But she doesn't have the pretty girl mindset, which is really embracing your own beauty or operating in your pretty privilege or knowing how to social climb, knowing how to use your beauty, your femininity, and all of the combination of the beautiful qualities about you inside and out, knowing how to use those qualities to navigate through life. That is a pretty girl mindset. And this is also why I say that my channel is not going to be for everyone, and that's totally fine because I really do feel like there are some girls out there where maybe they do have outer beauty, but they don't have inner beauty, which is really the confidence. It's the self esteem, it's the self acceptance, it's the self love, it's knowing how to be socially strategic, it's knowing how to use the positive aspects of yourself so that you can social climb and privilege stack. So maybe they do have the nice teeth or a nice smile or whatever, but they don't know how to make it benefit them. And that's okay. Not every woman is going to self actualize, but this channel focuses on using all of your privileges so that you can self actualize. Everybody has some form of privilege somewhere. And if you say that you don't, you're a liar because you're literally watching this YouTube video utilizing Wi Fi or utilizing internet access, which is a privilege. So people will shame you for having a privilege while simultaneously having privilege themselves. And by the way, have you noticed the changing trends on YouTube? Because the exotical space, we are the first space on YouTube to not demonize privilege. And now I see hundreds of videos popping up on YouTube as well as TikTok, where now we've got other people of all races and backgrounds finally embracing their own privileges or admitting that they have privileges. So, shout out to the Exoticals. And I want to use some celebrities as a case study in this because if you have pretty privilege and you're also extroverted and confident and you're bubbly or you like to smile a lot and maybe you're very flirty and seductive, if you're a Scorpio, if you're Scorpio like me, if you're an ENTJ personality type, yeah, you're definitely going to be called conceited. If first of all, if you're extroverted and pretty, you're going to be called conceited. If you are introverted and pretty, you're going to be called stuck up. So it's really two sides of the same coin. Doesn't matter if you're pretty and extroverted or pretty and introverted. It's the fact that you're pretty in and of itself that is triggering to people. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually use pretty privilege to make your life easier. So that brings me to my next point. I want to do a new storytime series where you guys can email me at exoticalsunited@gmail.com and tell me how you have used pretty privilege to help you in life. So, for example, have you received free products in the mail from companies because of your pretty privilege? Did you get brand deals or modeling contracts because of your pretty privilege? Have you been flown out or taken on a vacation because a guy thought you were pretty? Did you receive like special help in school from a professor because of your pretty privilege? That's something that people don't realize about beauty. And I feel like this is one of the only spaces on YouTube where we actually have real conversations about the social dynamics of beauty and how life changing it actually is once you learn how to utilize beauty to your advantage. So it's always the girls who have a bad relationship with their own beauty, they have a bad relationship with their own femininity. Those are the main ones who hate beautiful women the most. It's like, no, just because you couldn't make your beauty work for you doesn't mean that we're just these evil people because we enjoy being beautiful. Some women actually like how they look. Whether our beauty is real or fake, some of us like how we look. And so who gon' check us? Oh, well, you're conceited. Okay, who gon' check me? Even if I am conceited, who gon' check me? Oh, well, you're cocky. You think you're cuter than you are. Okay, even if I do, who gon' check me? You don't get to decide how beautiful I am. Society as a whole and the way that I'm treated in my everyday life, that is ultimately what decides my pretty privilege. It's how I'm treated every day. So you can talk all day long about how you're so much prettier and you're the baddest bee and all this crap, but when you go out into the world, if you're not treated as pretty or if you don't know how to navigate with your particular type of beauty, you're probably not even going to have the pretty girl mindset anyway. You're not going to live the lifestyle of what a lot of pretty girls live. And another thing that people forget is that pretty women are not a monolith. Because I hear some people saying, oh, well, if the exoticals, if all of those women are actually pretty, they wouldn't even be making YouTube channels. They'd be out being supermodels. And it's like, well, no, there are some pretty women who want to be models. There are some pretty women who are introverts. They want to be doctors, lawyers. They just want to be moms or, there are so many different avenues where pretty privilege can help you. In fact, I can't really think of an avenue where pretty privilege doesn't help you unless you're dealing with jealous people. But that's another thing, though. You have to learn how to combine pretty privilege with alchemy. So if you're in a scenario where maybe you are pretty, but a lot of people are hating on you, all you have to do is alchemize that. Okay, what types of people hate on me? Let me go to a space where it's the opposite of that type. Okay, so if I notice that fat, ratchet women don't like me, from here on out, I'm only going to be friends with skinny, bougie women. So that's the exact opposite. So think about where you've had the worst time in your life and then go to the exact opposite place. You know how in the unambiguous black women's community, they're like, oh, let's divest and go to white men? The reason they're saying that is because they have said that their pretty privilege doesn't work with black men, which I actually disagree with, but whatever. If they think their pretty privilege doesn't work with black men, that's why they're going to white men. It's because white men are the opposite of black men. So they're attempting to use alchemy so that their pretty privilege can work. But a part of the pretty girl mindset is being carefree. I've noticed that's one thing that all pretty girls have in common. If you're pretty and you're operating in your pretty privilege, I noticed that's one thing that we all have in common. All of us have like this unbothered energy, even if we have insecurities, because by the way, everybody has insecurities. There's no such thing as a woman who is perfectly confident in every single area in life. There's no such thing. So, any woman who, and that's another way that I know that a girl actually doesn't have pretty privilege is if she's stupid enough to try to be like, oh, well, I'm more confident than you, or like, I don't have any insecurities. Oh, no, you're definitely, you do not have pretty privilege because every woman on this earth, pretty or not, has something that she's insecure about. It could be something physical, it could be an aspect of her personality, but a part of the pretty girl mindset is self acceptance. And so there comes a point where you have received enough validation or you've learned how to validate yourself enough to where you accept your own flaws. You know, you accept your insecurities. Maybe your butt is a little bit bigger than you want it to be. You've learned how to accept that about yourself and still feel beautiful. Maybe you have acne or something. You've learned how to accept the little small aspects of yourself that you don't think are as pretty because you have enough validation to build your self esteem. It could be your internal validation as well as the micro validation. Be sure to check out my videos about creating multiple sources of validation because that's another thing that pretty privileged women have in common. So there's a difference between being pretty and having pretty privilege. Every woman is technically pretty in some way. I mean, technically, you probably are pretty in some way. Maybe you have smooth skin, straight white teeth, I don't know, healthy hair. So technically, everybody has some form of beauty, but there's a difference between being pretty and having pretty privilege. There's a difference between being feminine and having feminine privilege. This channel talks about the different privileges and how to stack those privileges to make it easier to social climb. So, one of the ways that you build your pretty privilege is by creating multiple sources of validation for yourself. So, in terms of pretty privilege, you want to create multiple sources of validation for your beauty. So I can just name off, I mean, I can think of probably dozens of ways that I validate my beauty. One of the ways I validate my beauty is I like to wear makeup that matches my skin tone and enhances my natural features that I already have. That's one of the ways that I validate my beauty. For somebody else, maybe they don't like wearing makeup. Maybe not wearing makeup validates your beauty. I've actually tried that before as well. When I was in college, so as a teenager, I used to wear a lot of makeup. And then when I got to college, I decided I'm going to take a break from wearing makeup and I just want to validate my natural beauty specifically. So I remember I took out my sew in, I had a partial sew in, and I took it out and I only wore my hair curly and natural and I didn't wear makeup for a whole month. And that was my way of specifically validating my natural beauty. And I went out in public. I didn't hide myself in my dorm room or anything. I still went out in public. And that was my strategy to validate my natural beauty at the time. And I remember I also was like drinking a lot of fruit smoothies and stuff just to like help my skin. And, you know, I was doing all these natural remedies like creating facials out of honey and stuff. That was my way of validating my natural beauty. So that was one source of validation. That was a form of self validation. And I feel like a part of the pretty girl mindset is knowing how to balance internal validation with external validation. Believe it or not, all pretty girls do this, whether they realize it or not. The reason you have pretty privilege is because you've learned how to balance both your own internal validation as well as the external validation. And you're doing it subconsciously without realizing it. And you might be thinking, well, that's impossible because what about teenage girls who are pretty? Like how would they be able to internally validate themselves? Oh, that's easy. It's because they had good parents or they had healthy family members who validated their beauty from childhood. Their beauty was validated from their parents, their teachers, their cousins, or whoever, to the point where now that little 13-year-old girl, she's looking in the mirror at herself thinking, I'm pretty. And no, that's not being cocky. That's called self love. You should think that you're beautiful. One of the other sources of self validation is pinpointing specific features about yourself that you believe are inherently pretty. So, for example, part of how I know that a girl does not have pretty privilege is because she can't name not one feature about herself that she thinks is beautiful. Or she will try to say that like somebody else's features make them ugly. I just feel like A woman who is super externally focused, usually those women, they're lacking in the internal validation. So that's why they're so externally focused because they don't have any internal validation to focus on. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with thinking that your skin tones make you pretty. Every woman should think that her skin tone makes her pretty. That includes light skins, by the way. So just saying. Well, your skin tone doesn't make you pretty. Yes, it does. Who are you to tell me what I get to decide makes me pretty? No, no, no. That's not how life works, boo. You don't get to determine where my beauty comes from. My skin tone is a culmination of the stories of my ancestors. So, yeah, my ancestors are beautiful, and the skin tone that was created on me that came from my mother and my father is beautiful. So, therefore, yes, actually, my skin tone does make me beautiful. How you like them apples? Just because you don't think your skin tone and your ancestors' skin tones were beautiful, that's not my problem. So, all of these things, these are all a part of the pretty girl mindset. It's being able to pinpoint different aspects of yourself that are beautiful and then being able to explain to yourself why those things are beautiful. So, I mean, I just explained why I think my skin tone is beautiful. Notice how I didn't name colorism. I didn't name any particular colors. I didn't say my skin tone is beautiful because I'm not dark skinned. I didn't say that. I said that my skin tone is beautiful because it tells the story of my ancestors and my family members. And also, I love my undertones. I love my neutral undertones. I think it's very rare for any black or black adjacent person to have neutral undertones. A lot of people of African American descent tend to have warmer undertones or maybe cool undertones, but I have completely neutral skin undertones. So, those are things that I love about my skin. That is what makes me feel special. And then in terms of external validation for my skin, I do get compliments on my complexion because I have very smooth skin. And I also happen to have freckles, so a lot of people think that's cute. I've noticed black Americans and white Americans, they they like the little freckles on my face. So, okay, those are the things that I feel make my skin beautiful. So those are the types of thoughts that pretty girls think. A woman who is not pretty or she doesn't think that she's pretty, she doesn't even take the time to think about what makes her pretty and why that thing makes her pretty. I've also noticed too, like another aspect of a pretty girl mindset is a lot of pretty girls have been told that we look like it could be a different celebrity or, you look like your mom and maybe your mom is pretty or something. So if you get told that you look like somebody who's pretty, obviously you're pretty. So you're telling me that this girl looks like Beyonce, Aaliyah, she looks like Christina Milian, she looks like Lupita Nyong'o, or all these different models. Oh, but suddenly she's ugly? That doesn't even make sense. So I think that some women, they may have a nice face, or like maybe there's nothing particularly wrong with their face, but they just don't have the pretty girl mindset. They just don't have the sauce. They don't have the riz. They don't have the juice, like how a real pretty girl has it. And I'm not trying to make it like, oh my God, we're so much better. But I was thinking about just adding to the story time series where you guys could write in and tell stories about all of the benefits of pretty privilege as a way of motivation. Because another thing I've noticed is that us pretty girls, we never get to talk about how fun it is to be pretty. I mean, let's be honest. I'm sorry. I know I sound extremely conceited on these YouTube videos, but I'm just saying, how come we never get to talk about how fun it is to be pretty? Like, seriously, have you ever thought about that? We're not allowed to talk about how fun it is to be taken on a vacation or to get into places for free. We don't get to talk about it. But now that we actually have a safe space where I have blocked all of the women from commenting who dislike us, now we get to finally have a space where we get to talk about what it's like and how much fun it is. And we get to enjoy and bask in the pretty girl culture. So why can't we have that? Other girls get to have a pity party and they get to bask in that. Other girls get to talk about, I don't know, being hypergamous or sugar babying or gold digging or whatever else, any other topic is okay to talk about. But suddenly, when it comes to the benefits of looking good, oh, we're banned from talking about that. No. So guess what? Let's talk about how being pretty is the shit. I think being pretty is fun. I just gotta be honest. Being pretty is fun. It's fun Being skinny is fun. I like looking good in a bikini. When you go outside to the beach and you're walking around in your bikini and you walk past a mirror and you see your abs showing in the mirror, like you can literally see the outline of your abs as you're walking, that shit feels good. I just gotta be honest. It feels good, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel good to do a treatment on your skin and then the next morning you wake up and your skin is smooth? Doesn't that feel nice to have a gorgeous, smooth skin? To look in the mirror and see that your lines in your face are fading away after you got rid of that dusty man that you were with? Doesn't it feel good to look in the mirror and see that your legs are moisturized and to see that your edges are full and thick and that you don't have bald edges? That shit feels good. It feels good to walk into a bar or something and then people are offering to give you a drink. It feels good that even after a guy screws up and you go through a breakup, it feels good to know that there's always somebody else around the corner if you really want that. I just gotta be honest. There is a social power that comes with beauty that is unmatched. Because if there wasn't, you wouldn't see people like Kylie Jenner and the Kardashians who have multi billions of dollars spending all that money on beauty. So clearly, there is a social power that comes with beauty that even people with wealth don't have. Like, if you're wealthy and ugly, there is still a piece of social power that is missing. And obviously, this channel focuses a lot on sociology and power dynamics. So, every different type of privilege comes with a special form of social power. So, there is a unique social power that comes with beauty that other people can't have. Have you ever noticed how some guys they get mad? They're like, how is Brittany Renner and Ruby Rose and all of these women, how are they able to just be thoughts and then make money? Well, it's because of beauty. That's why. That's how they're able to make their money. It's because they have beautiful teeth, beautiful skin, beautiful face, beautiful body shape, beautiful butt, beautiful boobs, beautiful stomach. That's why. That's why they can make money. It's because our society has a secret obsession with beauty, and I'm tired of people pretending like it doesn't exist. We're going to talk about it on this channel because beauty can give you access to open doors that other things can't give you access to. And I don't believe that there's one golden ticket to everything. It's not like beauty is the ultimate social power. That's all you need and you don't need anything else. But I am saying that beauty is the main one that people get the most triggered by. And beauty is the one thing that a lot of people don't like talking about. They don't like talking about the psychology behind beauty. There's a reason why we have a multi-billion-dollar industry to make people more beautiful. Oh, well, it's all based on insecurity. Okay. And okay, so then we live in an insecure society. So now what? So if you have overcome those insecurities, you have social power. That's exactly my point. You literally just proved my point by giving me that argument. Thank you. So if I've overcome the insecurity of being fat or being ugly or having crooked teeth, having acne, or having unhealthy hair, if I've overcome all of those insecurities, that's called beauty. Beauty is when you do not have ugliness. It's when you don't have those problems. So you're not walking around being insecure about your acne. You're not walking around with the insecurities about your stomach hanging out. You're not walking around with all of these micro insecurities. So it's a form of self validation. The reason that I talk about beauty is not because I'm trying to be shallow, it's because I'm trying to help women to learn how to validate themselves. And a part of validating yourself is by validating your own beauty. How can you validate your own beauty if you don't seek beauty? How can you validate your own beauty if you hate beauty? So, step one to the pretty girl mindset is coming up with your own internalized beauty standard. So, you can base your internal beauty standard on whatever you want. Be sure to check out my videos about how to pinpoint what your internalized beauty standard is. One of the main ways that we can think about this is if men didn't exist, how would you look? That's one of the questions I ask myself. Also, think of the most beautiful woman you know. What does she look like? That's another way to pinpoint your internal beauty standard. Think about your body goals. What are your body goals? Because that would be your beauty standard for body. What are your hair goals? If you could be reborn with any hair texture or style you wanted, how would you be born? Because that would be your beauty standard for hair. So I don't care what your internal beauty standard is. I have very controversial views on beauty. So it doesn't really matter what your internal beauty standard is or what it's based on. The real question is, what are you willing to do to meet that standard? Are you willing to change yourself to meet that standard? Because depending on that answer, that's how you're going to know if you're going to have insecurities. I'm willing to change myself if necessary to meet my internal beauty standards. So, my internalized beauty standard is being skinny. So, if I get fat, I'm going to change myself. I'm going to lose weight. My internal beauty standard is long, healthy hair. So, if my hair gets unhealthy, I'm going to make it healthy so it can be long. I'm willing to change myself. If my hair is short or if something happens to where it can't grow, I'm going to get extensions. I'm going to purchase something fake so that I can meet my internal beauty standard. So that's an important question to ask yourself. Do you naturally meet your internalized beauty standard? For most people, the answer is going to be no. That includes myself, by the way, because my internalized beauty standard is based on illusions. Um, and I think that's true for a lot of people. So when I say it's based on illusions, what I really mean is, for example, with me, I think princesses are pretty. I think fairies are pretty. I think mermaids are pretty. All of those things are my beauty standards. And so my beauty standard is technically based on something that doesn't exist in real life. So I have to create it. And that's okay. So that's where creativity can help me. So, do you see how your own beauty actually ties into other aspects of psychology? So, now I just realized okay, if my beauty standard is based on creativity, that means I should enhance my creativity because by enhancing my creativity, I'll become better at manifesting my own beauty. Is your beauty standard based on your race or ethnicity, such as blackness? Because if so, now you can't get extensions then. I don't want to see you with a weave then. If your beauty standard is only based on blackness, unambiguous blackness, then you should only be wearing your 4C hair. Because if you're not, then you will have what's called cognitive dissonance. So I have a lot of little fringe psychological theories on this channel. I'm not a real psychologist, I'm just talking my shit. But my theory is that most mental illnesses are based on cognitive dissonance. So if I lie to myself and I say my internal beauty standards is only based on blackness, but then I'm wearing items that make me look less black, that's cognitive dissonance. It's going to cause insecurities. Some of the side effects of cognitive dissonance are depression, anxiety, comparing yourself to others. So, for me personally, my internal beauty standard is actually not based solely on blackness. I have an international internalized beauty standard. So, I think that white women are pretty. I think Latin women are pretty, Indian, whatever. So, I think that literally every race of women on this earth can be pretty. And so, I don't have cognitive dissonance if I wear like Indian hair textures. Because when I see Indian women who are pretty, I think to myself, hey, she's pretty. And I have no problem admitting that. I have no problem saying, hey, I think Indian women are really pretty. I want to look like them sometimes. I have no problem saying that. But if you do have a problem admitting stuff like that, you're going to struggle a lot with cognitive dissonance. And so that's another way that I know when a woman does not have a pretty girl mindset. It's because she struggles too much with cognitive dissonance. She has an unstable view of her beauty. For those of you who have a Christian background, you know that a double minded man is unstable in all his ways, right? So if you have a double minded standard of beauty, one moment your standard is based on blackness, the next moment it's based on whiteness, but then you lie to yourself and say it's only based on blackness, okay, that's double minded. So, of course, you're going to feel unstable about your own beauty. You're double minded. That's why. That's why you're triggered when you see a mixed woman walk in the room. That's why you're triggered when you see a pretty white woman walk in the room. It's because you are the one that has the double minded beauty standard. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.